Good afternoon, everybody. This is P. Francis Mcnichol, otherwise known as Phil to my friends. I'm doing a quick reading of one of my poems. I believe the one I typed up was Fire. I did it the other day, and I didn't like how I sounded like I was drawing out words because I was very tired and really at the point of exhaustion because I slept so much. When I woke up, I stayed up that whole evening and wrote it in about 2 hours, polishing it here and there about 2 hours. And I really enjoyed writing it because it opened my eyes to some new words that I've heard. Didn't always remember if I'd use them verbally when speaking. Let's face it, we're losing a lot of our language skills, speaking especially. That's why I think digital arts, when it evokes imagery with the reader, is so important, because how we write is the ultimate in communication. It doesn't seem like that because we need to have more interpersonal skills. But look at it this way, we're losing all the skills because of the online presence, the instant euphoria. Some things we read online, and if you notice, you turn your attention away because it's not that exciting. Okay, that's interpersonal skills we are losing when everything we write in entertainment, or everything we do in entertainment, let me rephrase this, is written. There is a beginning and end with it being written. You can copyright what is said on movies and what have you. The transcripts itself and what have you, and you can copyright the videotape itself. So people cannot use it without paying the actual owner of the rights, and it makes sense. However, we're losing the interpersonal skills, and readers tend to conceptualize a lot of things more quieter, but they can still speak to people. They're not always the shut-in. The shut-in I speak of, it stays behind the computer, are addicted to the computer for their means of gratification. Okay, I'm not talking about pornography. I'm talking about general euphoria, something to pass the time also, like a hobby. And what transpires is they don't want to deal with humans in person anymore. Like even getting a phone call, or perhaps saying hi to someone on video. And I've seen that with quite a few writers in my time in the last 16 years, where there's always some excuse. And there is no excuse why you couldn't say hi to someone on video. Okay? And it's not a booty call. And it's something you have a hobby in common with, okay, like writing. People say they want to branch out. It's bullshit, because what they want to do is sell what they already published and get their name out there more, perhaps. And then they're like, no, I'm busy. I'm at work right now. I've spoken to male writers too, and it's like, okay, but there's a lot of women writers out there also that think everything is a booty call, and then they're writing constantly in their house. They don't go out and do anything. You don't see anything, and this is men too, by the way, but you don't see them going out having a normal everyday life with relationships outside of their house. And they're shut in. It's almost like a phobia. They're agoraphobes, so to speak. To put a label on it, agoraphobia, look it up. Afraid of people, afraid of open places, afraid of loud areas. There's different specific words for that, but it's basically agoraphobia. So anyways, we don't want to lose those skills. We want to keep those written or writing skills along with our verbal skills. I've had damage to both my ears, and this ear is half the hearing. This one comes and goes, whether my ear stops up with like something. You know how your ear closes because water's in it, or just once in a while it just closes and you hear it, and there's kind of like a pressurized a void in your head, and then it opens up again and you feel like you can hear normally. Well, I can speak normal. Okay, there's nothing wrong with my vernacular per se, but when I start to realize that I can't hear as much with outside noise all around us, I have to look right at the person when I'm listening to them. And I'm trying to be an attentive listener so that I have a good relationship and I am truthful and they are truthful to me and I interpret what they want me to know and I accept that. But having half hearing right now in my lifetime, it's hard to verbalize. And so that's a small part of the reason why I want to do the video over. And I just turned on the computer itself. And as the writers do, maybe other, I want to say budding or burgeoning writers shall do, and this is what I do. So it's like getting to know P, that's Philip Francis Mcnichol Jr., P. Francis Mcnichol, but Phil to my friends. And so what do? I log on. I can usually type very fast, especially when it's something freehand and I'm writing the long game. And I'll backtrack. I'll take my time with it. I'm a self-taught typist, so to speak. And do I type everything perfectly? No, not like a stenographer would do or a real typist that does it for a living. Okay, I'm going to go to Open Office. It's going to come up and say you didn't log out properly, so it wasn't saved. Start recovery, which it just did. Okay, where'd you go, cursor? The little arrow is bouncing around somewhere. Even when I wrote my first 2 books, I did not plan on having in-depth podcasts. I did not plan on doing videos for a living. And I still don't. I would like to become popular with Below the Precipice and Taken for Granted, speaking for themselves. And I'm so proud of them. Let me adjust this a little. And I'm sorry about the glare off my glasses. These are a pack I bought a month ago, and they came in a pack of 5, and they're really good, and they're professional, and they did cost a little bit, but it was a pack of 5, and this is the first one. So I don't want to lose it, but I'm sorry for the glare. All right, start recovery. Next. Okay, it came right up. I believe this is the one. Yes, it is fire. Drink some water before I get into the reading. Hi, Rosie. How are you? I'm doing a reading right now called Fire. I wrote it a couple hours in the overnight period on my day off. I wanted it to do earth, wind, and fire, and I didn't really start out. I wanted to break down an element, and I don't mean an element, but I mean something that has to do with nature. And then I was like, earth, wind, and fire, the group. I'm like, they're the 4 elements. Water is missing. Agua. So I was like, wind, I'll do. And then I decided to do earth. And it's just how it came to be doing these last 3 poems, which I really like, because I like the short game and shorter lines with couplets. I love couplets. There's not much I won't try when doing poetry, even meter prose in a nice look, not just paragraph form. But because I'm a limerick fiend, I like limerick in like paragraph form, because it keeps it simple and you keep on reading, and it's somewhat tongue twister, but it's supposed to be enjoyable too. Okay, yeah, it's a page and a half. So this is a excuse me. This is a reading of Fire. It's one of 3 I did in about a 4-day period. This took a couple hours, and I was happy to do it the other night. But that morning when I did the video, I was exhausted, really. I caught up with so much sleep before that evening off, and then I realized I kind of sabotaged myself. I wrote the poem as best I could, but reading it sucked. I'm not a linguist. I'm a wordsmith. So here goes. Fire by P. Francis Mcnichol. Burning balls of bight sped in the ethereal night, as ether teas shot seas of zeal and white. Gravity postponed shone in a plasma pall, as mass times weight gyrate, the miasma spall. Time tempers molten stone, cooling spheres, spinning light years from any mewing peers. While mated matter and black plasma snapes, centrifugal ellipticals bake softer shapes. Rain sealing fissures of the Eden rondure, as an outer steamy crust flatters grandeur. Encrusted lands shift, furious magma below. Though crust erupts, new land from lava flow. Continental drift persists, oceans of calm. Rondures to burst a bit in atmospheric balm. Wildfires blaze away, forests reduced to soot. Enriching a mortal coil, soil underfoot. Man rubbing wood, fanning frosted hands. A fire soul tends a meal and understands. Fire warms and heats, life in its breath. An elemental mother, but its father, death. Soul gives life balance, the elements admired. In a cold, dark, empty space, a spark gifted fire. The end. Short, sweet, to the point. That's kind of what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do a long diatribe, or I want to say one of my longer limerick style long stanzas, about 25 to 50 of them I've done before, to basically tell a story. And I will go there, and I will use, yes, sometimes the same words, because there's not much getting out or away from those similar words, like place, space, trace, okay? Many of those I loved researching. With this, I said at the previous video, there were some words I saw in relation to other words, just thinking of rhymes, like the cart coming before the horse. And so I mixed it up some, and then I saw the word snapes. And I was like, yeah, I can use that. One of the other ones, maybe it was the Earth poem, Plasma Pall. There was one word that was, here it is. Yeah, I'm sorry. My apologies. Earlier in this poem, bight was one of those words when I was thinking of night, light, twilight. Those three are like now becoming a stake in a vampire's heart, because they're used too much when you're always talking about the night that you love so much. You know, I worked midnights, and I was used to working midnights as a police officer. And there's a certain amount of things that run through your head while you're chilling, you know, on your shift, or when you're sitting there in the middle of the night. Many negative things come back, okay? And so you use twilight often, you use night and light, and quite right, and so on and so forth for that rhyme scheme. However, when I was looking at that, I'm like, I want to find something different because I use light, but with the rhymes, I looked up the word bight, and that's a very difficult occurrence to describe. The bight is what a sailor would describe as the shore busting, the waves busting the shore, and you might have had a lot of land come out, let's say like a delta, but it was pushed in and the water overtook it. So water overtaking a seashore after a while, it starts to go in more and more, eroding it slowly over time. So sailors use the word bight. I don't recall the etymology right away, but that half moon shape, I want to say carving out, okay, is what sailors refer to as a bight. And it's not a word used anymore when it should be, because to me, it described a mental image immediately of the meteorite coming through space, and you see that force field, or it's all the wind and what have you, and debris and ice and stuff coming off it as it's going through space, and you see the tail going around it with that big concave, or I want to say crescent moon bight, because it's pushing through the black plasma, very fast. I don't know the exact mileage, okay, but it's something we can estimate, but it's up there, thousands of miles per hour, okay? I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. But bight was a perfect description for matter expanding at the speed of light, and then it going out, billions of years, it's still expanding to a certain point, as I describe in other works, but also in here. There's a certain amount of contraction with that gravity of black plasma and however it works. The theories are there, but hey, I'm not out in space. Anyways, bight was a perfect word for that concave, I want to say outer field of that matter spreading apart. It was perfect for me. I was like, this is a word that should get back into common use so that, hey, it could be an apt description, but it bails you out too. And so burning balls of bight sped at an ethereal night as ether teas shot seas of zeal and light. I use the teas, like teas, T-E-A-S. I used the teas word before, I think in another of these three poems. But the teas was to show darkness. And I like that in a lot of scheme with the seas, zeal, rhyming with the ethereal, gravity postponed, shown in a plasma pall. It's hanging over everything. Okay, I didn't mean it necessarily as sadness, like a pall fell over the crowd in the funeral, per se. Spall, you have to look that one up. Spall, I believe, was the adjoining of joints, basically a connection where one would fit into the other. Good example I saw on, you have two joints that one fits into the other perfectly, but there was a conjoined whole, okay, that they both accounted for. So when they connect together and they're situated, they can still pull out this direction, one direction. They can't go up, can't go down, and they'll probably fall down together. But with those designs, there's also a square. And then you put the square in there, that locks them so they can't move at all. Okay? Miasma spall is basically that conjoining of matter in general, and it's connecting time tempers, molten stone, cooling spheres. I go into some basic stuff. Spinning light years from any mewing peers. Mewing, if you imagine, I'm reminded of this by Pink Floyd, but the mewing of sheep and what have you can get very loud when all of them are distracted or fearful. It was just more poetic. I love that word, mewing. That's another rare word that can bail you out. With the last name Ewing, it's not really normal to leave or use proper last names or surnames in a rhyme unless it's specifically targeted at them in a good way or a bad way. Let me make an adjustment here. I know what I wrote, but somehow I dropped the L, and I know I said it right too. Plasma. Plasma Snapes. Pall. Snapes might be the configured locking joints you speak of. Rondure is another word for planetoid or sphere. That was a beautiful word. It's not hardly ever used anymore. Grandeur. Rondure has that very soft French accent to it, like fleur for flower. In English, it's flower. In France or French, it's fleur, F-L-E-U-R. Grandeur has a kind of a start-off sound, jour, to that last syllable, but rondure is actually rondure, and it works. Continental drift is a word I hate saying a million times with my tired old self. Continental drift persists. I wanted just some short I sounds there. Oceans of calm, rondures to burst a bit, and atmospheric balm. That's why I'm beginning to like poetry more and more over the last 2 years, especially. It's because I know these sounds and they just run in my head, and it took a little bit to do this because I was thinking of elements of earth, and I wanted to not get into the weeds too much with chemistry, so to speak, and what is it? God, man, talk about brain farting. Periodic table. I didn't want to get into what everything is, stone, and I was looking up all the tights, TITES, and I was like, never heard of that one. That ain't gonna work. Nope, not that. Heard that one, but that ain't gonna work either. Too many syllables, and so you're a poet. You want some tricky dick poetry in there, but not to go overboard with the syllable sounds of multiple words. It just doesn't make good sense to have multiple, unless you're doing something spoofy to begin with. You really wouldn't use more than 3 syllables to rhyme, and that might be for one line to give your whole poem a great feel to it. Fire soul tends a meal and understands. I'm going back to basics. Simple words. The word understands is understandable. It rhymes with hands, of course, rubbing wood, fanning, frosted hands. A fire soul tends a meal and understands. Fire warms and heats life in its breath. I have used this before, showing the difference between mother and father death. Mother gives life, father takes it, with the word death. But breath is commonly used. I'm not afraid to put it in another poem. If it's part of a trilogy like this, I would try not to, but breath is a great rhyming word, and it usually, excuse me, it's saying slow connection again. I got great Wi-Fi with my gateway through T-Mobile, but for the new phone, Facebook always says slow connection. I'm like, the hell am I paying for? You know, elemental mother, but father, but it's father death. That's kind of direct. You can do that too. You don't always have to use a bunch of quantifiers, prepositions, verbs and adverbs, but it's father death, no comma needed. Soul, I go back to soul in this trilogy because soul is the actual scientific name. It also sounds like a deity. So I stuck with soul, and I like the word. I like Del Sol, you know, the cars. Isn't there a beer named after the sun? Sol, S-O-L. That's the actual scientific name. Anybody can look it up. That's the scientific name of the sun. Whether it's from Latino origin, Spanish origins or not, or the original Latin language itself, which Spanish is high on coming from. Beautiful language. I like Spanish more than French. I don't like the way you look at a word and it's pronounced so different than even something logical to our English. It's like hard to fathom French, but it sounds beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Some of those words can bail you out of English poem too. Like parlez-vous français? I know where to look, but I don't like speaking it. I know where to look for Spanish and what I want to find, especially if I heard it before. But some friends of mine will speak Spanish very quickly, and I'll be like, no, stop. English, please, or we'll have to write back and forth. So in a soul gives life balance, the elements admired. I wanted to end this with fire. I made a purposeful task to end this with fire. But anyways, some of the similarities, the reason why I did a lot of, or I want to say enough research where I did feel like I was making sure I was on the mark, was because I had to go back to make Earth a firing, crusted ball burning away because it was brand new. And the moon broke away somehow because of that gravitational force. And it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is the moon part of the Earth itself? Was it nothing but super meteorites? They believe like a super meteorite was hit by other meteorites, and that's what formed Earth. Well, how do you get the spherical shape like that from just conjoined matter and one little spindle around the bigger soul? How does that happen? I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I don't see it happening that way. I see the moon or the mass of rock getting circular over time, but the moon being a looser chunk coming free and being its own, I want to say gravitational, yeah, but its own buoyant weight. So I did research some things to make sure that I wasn't going back to the Earth poem, making sure I wasn't, I want to say, layered over too much. I wanted the wind to coat the Earth. I wanted the Earth to start out as something hard like rock and then slowly dissolve and get more polished so it starts giving more life and what have you. And I wanted fire to evolve from that soul, the sun. I want to say all the energy of a star, and then that Earth, I want to say cooling off because it was a fireball at one time. And man is realizing, okay, whatever our world is, the land is upset because it has a volcano going off. And Hawaii is proof that volcanoes going off. The actual magma and lava flow have more nitrogen when it starts to break down over millennias, it makes the soil very rich over time. I wanted to give that feel and then do kind of a switch back to just basic, not Cro-Magnon man, but I guess Homo sapien, where we start to develop techniques to cultivate a fire, if not start it, because for whatever reason, we don't always know in one population on the other side of the earth, did they know how to start fire? I'm sure scientists and God, I can't say the word, can research that and know by certain tests or certain hints in how they research the bodies and artifacts and stuff like that. Paleontologist is the word I'm looking for, I think. Oh, excuse me. But in essence, what if you have a lightning storm, light a forest on fire, and then Joe, Homo sapien, who doesn't know how to start fire, uses fire to warm up food because he's tired of the cold food? Okay? When does that happen in terms of man's existence? That's what I don't know. But that's what I hope to show in a somewhat poetic way. But keep it simple. If I had to do a poem all about that, then I would deep dive and research more and more about that study of man. Okay. So that was my reading of fire. I don't think I'm going to read the other ones, wind and earth. I don't think I really want to. They're short. I liked them, and I was happy to paste them together somewhat out of order from Earth, Wind, and Fire, the group. I'm not doing Agua just because I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'm a Motown fool myself, and I was raised on Motown. I love Motown. I don't know everything about, deep dives into every group. Trust me. But ELO had such a positive effect growing up. Great music. They were part disco, part the remnants of Motown music, and such harmony. And some of their songs were more serious that are very popular. So, like I said before, it's like an homage. I'm keeping it Earth, Wind, and Fire, or Wind, Earth, Fire. However, it was in the, it was in that order how I wrote it. Because, like I said at the beginning of this video, wind is what I wanted to do. I was not thinking of it like an homage or anything like that. It's not really an homage, paying homage. However, people want to enunciate that word. And then I was like, yeah, I'll do earth, and then I'll do fire. And water, I think there's a lot of tropes in it. There's a lot of overused descriptions where I really don't want to get into water and pay water itself homage per se, but we need to have water to live. I'm fully aware of that, but I wanted to keep it simple, stupid, kiss it, so to speak. And I really enjoyed these last three because it wasn't like a super long project. It was something I could do in between, a day off or coming home from a tired work and just laying down and just, And again, all my poetry for the last 4 years have been on the phone. Some of the shorter stories I posted to Facebook, they're on a blood red sea. Okay, I did it all on the phone, and not many people can say that. They might write down a small quip, a small poem occasionally, but I do it exclusively, and then I go back to the fields on Facebook. Facebook has the best fields. So when I paste it into Facebook, and then I look at it while it's on the wall or the feed, it looks the best. So I know it will most likely look pretty good on paper too. And then when I put it on the paper, it's like, yeah. And I can tell by just the size of the lines, it's going to hit its mark. Sometimes we don't always hit that mark, and it's a little verbose, and there's maybe too many syllables in it. And then an extra 2 or 3 words is on the next line, and you're like, at least it helps you to go back and see, hey, can I shorten this? Can I make it a little more tight? You know, I was telling a critique on one of the comments of somebody's work, reading the whole thing. Great subject matter. Whatever it was a little more serious. Great flow going down. Then like the second to the last stanza, the word made the whole thing freaking caca. Okay? I was like, man, you had, oh my God. And it was a good poem with the exception of the whole flow stopping dead at that second to last stanza. And I was like, you might just want to check the word, okay? Because 9 times out of 10, you don't need the word to come as a preposition before something. Like, for instance, if I was to say, as ether tea shot seas of zeal and the light, well, that's not a good example. Burning balls of bight sped in thee. Okay, burning balls of bight sped in the ethereal night. I can technically take away the word. Burning balls of bight sped in ethereal night. And it would be perfect. It would be near perfect. And then I would go with that kind of flow, with that dynamic being shorter, more straight to the point, having, I want to say, the meat on the bone for that one small line. Burning balls of bight. Everybody's thinking to themselves, burning balls sped into the ethereal night. Oh, something is really exploding, or something is really going out as like a bright flash. I believe that's my intent. I believe it's there. Some people might not think so, but I believe it is. As ether tea shot, where's another the? Any is one of those words that might lengthen a sentence and make it too cumbersome. So that flow is just ruined. I actually weighed centrifugal ellipticals, and I liked how it sounded together. So that's 4. That's 8 total syllables at the beginning of a sentence. Bake softer shapes. Centrifugal ellipticals bake softer shapes. I was okay with it because of the rhyme within a rhyme. But it's only occasionally. I don't want it to be too cumbersome, but too verbose. Lord knows. We all can be verbose when we're right. I think I minimized the rest of the thes on this on purpose just because of that. That's how I try to shore up a poem while, I hate saying proofing, because it's just a poem. It's very easy to redirect. A fire sold tens of meal. Poetically, a is an adverb. Adverb. Yeah, you can use often, and it keeps some, I want to say, more poetic feel to it. A fire soul tends meals, I could have done, and understands. But I wanted a single meal referring to one individual, and that was man finding fire. Life in its breath, elemental mother, but it's, yeah, the word the can really slow things down. Here is the next. So that was two thes in the whole poem. Soul gives life balance, the elements admired. The may come in handy just because of spacing in that same flow to extend a line. The elements admired. It does what it says what it does. A cold, dark, empty place. That's pretty much it. Two thes. That could be the death of great work. If you're doing a longer sonnet, there might be more spaces for the word, but it's not a bad word. You can put it in anything, okay? But it might offset your flow, is all I'm saying. I lost my train of thought there for a second. Because a sonnet might be longer in a longer sentence in general, is what I'm getting at. So, anyways, that was fire, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate this do-over because I feel much better. And even though it was a long night this morning, oh my God, it was a long night. I feel better rested. So I thank you guys so much, and get out there and write. Remember, write. Feel good about writing and learning more about the English language so we don't lose that skill. And the more we learn about the English language, the more we have more people skills. Okay? All art, I don't care if it's dancing, all art starts from writing. Okay? People don't want to believe that. They just want the quick fix and be entertained looking at YouTube, looking at clips on Facebook, looking at their old photographs and everything. Hey, I'm guilty of it too. But don't lose something great, like these great words that have to come back in use. Bight, snapes, what was the other one? Rondure. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much, and I really appreciate your time. All right, the thing went down, so I can hit the button now. All right, thank you.